In today's Reddit cheating story, we're going to go over Gary's story, a man who was gaslit, lied to, and almost convinced he was going crazy by his wife, Amy. After dedicating 7 years of his life to this woman, she stabbed him in the back in the worst possible way. And if you think all she did was cheat on him, boy will you be wrong. But let's jump into everything that went down. Gary and Amy had been together for half a decade, and before that, they'd been friends for 2 years. They got married a year ago. And like a lot of new marriages, everything was fine. Their relationship was strong. They were going on dates and having sex on a regular basis.
You go, Gary.
Yeah, let's not get too happy for him just yet. Anyway, their son just got out of that newborn stage. And while Gary doesn't know how long Amy had been cheating on him for, he does know that it was after they got married. You see, after they got married, Amy became very distant with him, practically doing a 180, and she was enjoying more girls' nights out than usual.
And Gary was okay with that?
Well, yeah. At first, it was only once a week, or every 2 weeks, but then it became 4 times a week.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Tell me about it. He'd wait up for her and stuff like that, and when she'd get home, which would usually be around 3 in the morning, the first thing Amy would do is hop in the shower, then try her luck with Gary afterwards. And to be fair, a lot of the time, she was able to pull it off. Still, Gary started to suspect that something was going on, so he decided to confront Amy about it.
Hey, is there someone else?
No, you're the only one.
The thing is, even though she told him that, Gary wasn't quite buying it. So later on that night, he went through her phone, but Amy's a pro, so she covered her tracks well. In the end, he didn't find anything. Eventually though, he would find little clues when he got home from work, like cigar wrappers on the floor, that sort of thing. But when he asked Amy about it, she'd just say that they belonged to a friend of hers called Miranda.
Didn't he find anything else?
Well, one time he found her underwear on the floor, and they were wet, like soaked.
No way, poor Gary.
Yeah, and when he looked at her, she looked right back at him as he threw them into the dirty basket. But now, he was certain that something was up. 2 weeks go by, and Gary, he wasn't eating and ended up losing 10 pounds. And one night, Amy asked him to pick her up while she was drunk, which actually led to them having quite the interesting conversation.
Miranda told me what you were doing at that party.
What? She told you about me getting a guy's number and fucking him?
What?
Yeah, he wasn't the only one though. I might as well tell you that I had chlamydia, but I wasn't cheating. I got it from a toilet.
There's no way she said that.
Yeah, Gary couldn't believe what he was hearing. He just looked at her in disgust.
Did they keep talking?
Yeah, and it gets even crazier.
3 months after we got married? Well, I got pregnant for you.
How can you say that for sure? You were cheating and fucking other people.
No, it was definitely yours.
Honestly, I really don't think so.
Well, it doesn't matter what you think because I got rid of it anyway.
That's a crazy thing to say to your husband.
Yeah, after that, Gary was a mess because he thinks she robbed him of being a dad of 2. He wasn't crying for long though, because in the back of his head, something clicked. And in the end, he ended up laughing and they drove home together. On the way back though, he couldn't focus on anything except the car in front of him. And as soon as he dropped her off, he went to see his cousin so they could have a smoke.
No kidding, he probably needed a few.
Are you okay?
I can't feel anything now. I was crying earlier, but now I don't feel a thing. I'm a numb zombie.
We don't really know what happened after that, but he goes on to say that he dreams about her a lot. And while he's dreaming, he misses her like crazy. But when he wakes up, he doesn't feel anything. More than anything, I'm glad Gary got himself out of that situation, and I hope that things stayed that way. I mean, finding out that your wife cheated on you and aborted your child is a lot. And telling him this while she was drunk speaks to just how much she doesn't give a damn about him. Gary was betrayed in numerous ways by Amy, but if he truly does manage to stay away from her, he'll save himself years of grief. In today's video, we're following Darren's cheating story, a man who gave 8 years of his life to his wife, Jasmine. And while he thought they were on the same page about things, he was wrong, dead wrong. Darren thought he could trust Jasmine with his life, But all it took to destroy what he and Jasmine built was a single coworker and a thumb drive. So without further ado, let's get into Darren's cheating story. So, things for Darren take a real bad turn when he discovers a bunch of text messages that prove his wife was cheating. But before we get into all that, we have to go back to the beginning. Darren and Jasmine have been together for about 8 years now, and out of those 8 years, they've been married for 5. They also have a 5-year-old son. Now, it was around 2 years ago, Darren started to suspect that Jasmine was up to something because she was acting distant and cold with him. And on top of that, their sex life dried up.
Yeah, that's never a good sign, especially when you've been with someone for less than a decade, but I don't know. That's just me.
I hear you, and the sex stopping wasn't the end of it. You see, she also started putting extra effort into her appearance whenever she got ready for work. So who was she trying to impress? While all this was going on, they were fighting more than usual, so it's safe to say that things were a little rocky. It seems like Darren had enough though, because one night he decided to go through Jasmine's phone while she was in the kitchen. And boy, he didn't like what he saw. There were tons of messages between his wife and this guy called Leo, who was her coworker, and they were telling each other that they were in love. She even said that if she wasn't married to Darren, she'd be with this Leo guy.
I don't know what I'd do if I ever read something like that.
I don't think Darren enjoyed it much either, because he immediately kicked her out, so she had to go back to her parents' place. After all that went down, they were separated for 3 months. And you know, he even gave her the option to leave the marriage if she didn't want to be with him anymore so she could be with the new guy.
And how did that conversation end?
If you'd accept it, I'd like to stay and work on the marriage.
I would, but only on the condition that you never actually slept with that guy.
No, I haven't. We only kissed one time.
Does he genuinely believe that they only kissed once?
I don't know what he thought, but he goes on to say that he was willing to forgive her, so they continued to work on their marriage. It was a tough 6 months though, because he'd constantly bring up what happened, telling Jasmine that she better not be making a fool of him. Otherwise, he'd lawyer up and file for divorce. Naturally, she promised that she wasn't messing with him, and seemed to work really hard to prove that she wanted to stay married to Darren. Anyway, let's skip ahead a year, and Darren gets a message on Instagram from what he says was a fake account.
What? Like a scammer?
Maybe he just meant anonymous, because he didn't know who it was.
Oh, I get you. So what did it say?
Hey, just a heads up. I accidentally saw your wife at her coworker's house. This is the address.
That's pretty out there for a first message. So what? Did he reply?
No, but he showed Jasmine the message and immediately let her know that they would be getting a divorce. She acted like she didn't know what was going on, so Darren tried to check out the previous locations on her phone to see if she'd been there, but he didn't find anything. Later on that night though, Jasmine came clean and said the message was from Leo, who was apparently having a psycho moment and wanted to ruin their marriage because Jasmine chose her husband over him. Now, this is where things really get hot, so let's bring the clock forward to more recent times. Darren didn't end things with Jasmine after the whole Instagram thing because of how much effort she'd been putting into their relationship. But while he was cleaning out his car, he found a thumb drive he'd never seen before. He asked Jasmine about it, but she didn't have a clue either. So after letting it sit there for a while, he eventually decided to plug it into his laptop.
That's so risky. Anything could have been on there.
Yeah, Darren acknowledged that too, but he just had to see what was on it and who it belonged to. When he opened it up, there was one file saved as a new folder, and it had been created 3 weeks ago. When he opened the folder, he saw a bunch of images that were screenshots of things Jasmine and Leo were talking about. She'd sent him selfies, lingerie shots, and even full-body nudes.
Sounds like they shared a lot more than one kiss.
Isn't that always the way though? In the messages he saw, there was one in which Jasmine told Leo that she loves him, and when he demanded that she kiss him while he was having an orgasm. She had one herself. She even asked him about how good his pullout game was. And one of her incriminating messages said,
No, you didn't finish inside me, only over my dress.
So, She was having an affair and not using protection on top of that?
Crazy, right? All in all, there were about 12 messages between February and July, and the last message was Jasmine breaking things off with Leo. She said that she'd felt terrible about the affair from the beginning, and that she's happy with what she's got. After that, she asked him to delete everything she'd ever sent him. The affair had been over for almost a year at this point, but while she was in the thick of it, she'd still be telling Darren how much she loved him. As things are right now, Darren's really struggling and doesn't know where the thumb drive came from. He thinks that Leo put it in his car, but if that's true, how the hell did he manage to get inside?
So, what did he do?
We don't know. Last I saw, he was wondering if he should put this whole saga behind him or lawyer up and get a divorce. The lying and deceit was strong with this one, and to be honest, I don't know how he could ever fully trust her again. Just think, she managed to continue cheating on him for a whole year and he had no clue. So who's to say that she isn't doing the same thing right now or will do so in the future? Jasmine telling Leo that she felt bad about their affair since the beginning holds zero weight with me, because if she really felt that bad, she wouldn't have done what she done. Also, I have to say this, not like I haven't said it a million times before, but if you find out that your partner cheated on you, but they go on to say it was just a kiss, never believe that. 99 times out of 100, it's a lie. Boy, does it suck when the people you trust most in this world stab you in the back as if you didn't matter. Well, that's exactly what happened to today's Redditor, Cody, who thought he could leave his best friend and girlfriend together while he popped out for a quick meeting. But when he got back, he was hit with a dose of reality. Cody's been with his girlfriend Aaliyah for 4 years, and he's been best friends with a guy called Nathaniel for 11. He's a regular guy who works for a multinational company doing a night shift, and while he does that, his girlfriend runs her own bakery, and his friend is involved in his family's business. Why are you drooling like that?
I don't know. You said bakery, and I started to fantasize.
Anyway, Cody and Aaliyah have been dating since college, and they even have a cozy apartment together. One evening, they'd planned for Nathaniel to come over and have dinner, which was going to be cooked by Aaliyah. Nathaniel arrived at their place at around 8, and without wasting any time, they all started drinking, dancing, and, just having a good time. The party wouldn't last though, because around 9:30, Cody got a call from his manager, requesting that he attend a meeting because the employee that was meant to be going couldn't make it.
Must have been one heck of an important meeting to call him in for it.
When I first read this story, I thought the same thing. Well, because Cody had to leave, it kind of put a damper on the whole thing, but he promised that he'd be back real fast and that they should continue having fun until then.
I guess we know what kind of fun they ended up having.
Tell me about it. In any case, while Cody was on his way to the office, he got another call and was told that he didn't have to attend the meeting because the other person could make it. At the time, Cody was very happy about this, because it meant he could go home and continue partying with Aaliyah and Nathaniel. All in all, he was out of the house for around 40 minutes, and when he got back, he didn't see anyone in the hall or kitchen, but it wasn't long before he saw Aaliyah and Nathaniel coming out of the bedroom.
So what? Did he confront them on the spot?
Actually, he didn't, and in fact, they both seemed very happy to see him. So the rest of the night was actually pretty good. After Nathaniel left, Cody did have a conversation with Aaliyah about what he saw.
What were you guys doing in the bedroom?
Nathaniel needed to use the laptop, so we just sat in the room while he did whatever it was he needed to do.
Did he believe that, though?
Well, he didn't press her about it because to him, what she said made sense. So after that little talk, they went to bed. In the morning, though, while Aaliyah was at the bakery, something hit Cody like a ton of bricks, which was that Nathaniel couldn't have been using his laptop because he took it with him when he was called in for the meeting. So now, Cody's wondering why Aaliyah lied to him about what they were doing. And of course, his mind jumped to the absolute worst thing they could have possibly been doing. He didn't want to sit on these thoughts for too long, so he quickly called Nathaniel and asked him to come over, saying that it was an emergency. At the time, though, Nathaniel said he was at work but would come over soon.
He probably had a hunch that he'd been figured out, right?
Possibly, but in any case, Cody was stressed. He wanted to know what they were doing in the room together, so he figured, why not just ask his girlfriend directly? So he jumped in his car and drove down to the bakery. But when he got to the car park, guess whose car was there?
It's gotta be Nathaniel's.
Yeah, which messed with Cody's head even more. After all, Nathaniel just told him that he was at work.
Yeah, he was working on something all right. So what? Did he go into the bakery and confront them?
I feel like that's what most people would have done, but Cody, he went home and started doing research about cheating.
Huh?
Yeah, he was probably on Reddit or something because he was reading suggestions that other people had made, like installing hidden cameras, so that's exactly what he did. He found someone or a company online and had cameras installed that day. Aaliyah got home at around 7 o'clock, but Cody really didn't have it in him to face her, and Aaliyah could tell that something was up with him, but he just said that there was an issue at work, then headed out. So he gets to work, and he starts watching the feed from the new cameras through his phone, and he did this for 3 days, but didn't see anything. Since he didn't see his wife getting up to anything shady, he started to think that he'd just been overthinking.
It doesn't change the fact that she lied about the whole laptop thing, though. And what about Nathaniel saying he was at work?
Well, to Cody, these were the two most trusted people in his life, so he may have been thinking that there's no way they'd stab him in the back like that. In any case, he was starting to think that he should just get rid of the cameras, but before he was able to do so, on the 4th day, he saw something that he'll never be able to forget. Aaliyah and Nathaniel were in the kitchen together, hugging and giving each other kisses on the cheek, fooling around. Cody could not handle this, so he ran off into the washroom and started crying. He was still watching them on the camera though. And after they had their tea, they started going at it on the sofa. By this point, the screen on Cody's phone was covered in tears. I mean, watching his two favorite people humping like bunnies couldn't have been easy.
He must have driven home immediately. I wouldn't have been able to control myself.
Well, the last we heard from him, he was staying at a hotel for a few days and still hadn't confronted them about it. And that was 4 months ago from the making of this video, so who knows what's happened since then. Hopefully though, he kicked them both to the curb, because having people in your life who you can't trust isn't going to get you the best results. But I've seen enough of these stories to know that there's a pretty good chance that he stuck around and gave her another chance. It wouldn't be surprising. In today's Reddit cheating story, our OP, Daisy, is married to a man called Adam, who's both a doctor and a professor. And even though Daisy and Adam were building a life together, it didn't stop him from crushing on one of his students. Daisy was shocked because she didn't ever think she'd find herself in a situation like this. But the only thing she wants now is the truth about what happened between her man and his student. Daisy and Adam are both 35. They met in college, fell in love, and got married 8 years ago, and they had their first daughter in 2020. Adam's a doctor and professor at a med school, and he works with Daisy's friend, Sarah, who's actually the one who gave Daisy the tea on what was going on with her husband. A few months back, Sarah took Daisy out for lunch and told her that she suspected something was going on with her husband and a 25-year-old student. Apparently, Sarah saw Adam and this student, Olivia, giving each other yearning looks and…
Wait, she actually used the word yearning in the story?
Yeah, she did. It threw me off a little too. It's not a word you hear every day. Anyway, Sarah was like, she's known Adam for ages, and she's never seen him talk to a woman the way he talks to Olivia. When he's around women, he's normally aloof. So why was he acting so differently with this girl? Daisy wasn't buying any of it though, and she actually laughed in Sarah's face.
Gosh, Sarah, you're jumping to conclusions based on these supposed yearning looks.
That's why I didn't tell you before. I was confused too. It's not like he goes out of his way to talk to her, but whenever they do talk, it's like watching a slow-burn romance movie. She looks at him like he's Brad Pitt, and he looks at her the way he used to look at you.
Did she really find it funny though? Or was she just covering up how she really felt?
Well, she said she was hurting inside. But she put on a brave face and suggested that Sarah was just overthinking things. But she did bring it up to Adam later that night. When she told him about what Sarah said, she was still laughing, and while she was telling Adam the story, she expected him to have the same reaction, and to deny the crazy theory that he'd fallen in love with a student. But he didn't find any of it funny.
So Sarah was right. Talk about having egg on your face.
Yeah, Adam looked at Daisy with tears in his eyes and was like,
I'm sorry. I can't get her out of my mind. I've tried, trust me. I should have told you sooner, but I thought I could save our relationship. I really wanted to.
Did you cheat on me?
No, I didn't even talk to her, and we don't have any contact outside of the college. And trust me, I know how morally depraved it would be to pursue a relationship with a student.
So what? The yearning looks were just sexual tension?
I guess there may have been a little bit of that. But about a year ago, Olivia actually wrote Adam a letter, confessing her love for him. But he let her know that even though he was into her too, nothing would ever happen between them. And it was after this little event that they started giving each other yearning looks. Naturally, when Daisy heard about all this, she didn't take it well at all, and ended up packing her stuff so she could go live with her parents, along with their daughter. She's been living with them ever since, and in truth, she was half hoping that Adam would beg for forgiveness, but he never did.
So he hasn't seen them since they left?
Well, he does spend time with their daughter, but neither of them dared to bring up what happened. Daisy was actually checking out Olivia on social media, and she was blown away by how beautiful she was. She even started to think that perhaps Adam should be with someone like her, because she doesn't compare. She's just a plain Jane.
She probably feels like she's being pushed to the side for someone younger. Sounds rough.
The question on my mind is, was there more between them than just yearning looks? Even though Daisy's husband said they never spoke outside of college, that doesn't mean they didn't hook up while in college. I know that sounds like a bit of a leap, but I've worked with people in the past who cheated exactly like this. They never spoke outside of work, but would hook up during lunchtime. Also, he could just be lying when he said that they never spoke. In any case, Daisy did have an update to her story.
I was going to say, you can't just end things like that.
After Daisy shared her story on Reddit, she met up with Sarah for dinner to thank her for giving her a heads up about Adam. She wanted to know if anything unusual had happened since they kind of separated, but Sarah just said that he's been distant with everyone. Now, Daisy may have been worried or curious about how Adam was doing, so she turned up to the house unannounced, and he was just sitting there, alone in his office.
Hey, can we talk?
Sure. I wanted to explain everything to you anyway. Olivia's had a crush on me for 2 years, and her friends are always trying to ship her with me. She'd always stare at me during her rotations, and would blush whenever I looked or talked to her. Back then, though, I didn't think much of it. A lot of girls had crushes on me, but I just ignore it. About 1.5 years ago, we were in the same research group, along with 5 to 6 other people. And because we were working together, I started to notice her more, and was impressed by her intelligence. And of course, she's beautiful. When I realized that I had a crush on her too, I dropped out of the research group, which was about 6 months after we started. A few weeks later, she gave me a letter confessing that she has feelings for me. And the first thing I told her after reading it was, "You can get into trouble because of this." But she didn't care. She wanted an answer, wanting to know if it was all in her head, which is when I told her that it wasn't, but nothing could come out of it, hoping she'd understand.
According to Adam, that was the last time they spoke, and the yearning looks were, more of an awkward eye contact thing than anything else. Adam also let Daisy know that even though he's attracted to Olivia, he isn't going to try anything with her, whether they stay married or not. He was even willing to go to therapy and change jobs.
So, was he able to win her over in the end?
Well, after their conversation, she said that she needed some time to think about it, but she struggled with the fact that this had been going on for 3 years, and not once did Adam bring it up to her. Because of how much time Adam and Olivia spent together, and the fact that he's still very much into her, Daisy didn't think she'd be able to trust him again, so she went ahead with the divorce. For Daisy, a relationship without trust isn't something she's interested in.
But Nobody knows if Adam and this Olivia girl slept together?
Maybe not. But if it is the case that Adam had no intention to cheat on Daisy, he should have been more forthcoming about what was going on, and he shouldn't have entertained anything that Olivia said to him. Even if he was feeling something, he should have kept it to himself and let those feelings die a quiet death. And if he really had to talk about it, he should have got therapy. Him developing such a long-lasting attraction to Olivia was detrimental to his relationship, and his secrecy made it so that Daisy couldn't fully trust him, which in the end destroyed everything they'd built. As strong as relationships can be, they can also be super fragile if you don't prioritize your partner and let outside influences affect what you're building. In today's Reddit cheating story, things go downhill for Lucas and his girlfriend Bella after they start joking about having a threesome. Lucas never thought he'd find himself in the middle of a three-way with Bella, but that's exactly what happened. Now, Lucas had the time of his life during the threesome, but for all the pleasure he received, there was a steep price to pay. And in this case, it wasn't one that he could so easily afford. But let's get into it. So, just for a bit of clarity, Lucas and Bella are pretty young. He's 21 and she's 20, but they've been together for 5 years, which to them is like a quarter of a lifetime, right? Anyway, things were pretty good in their relationship, and Lucas would even describe it as being perfect. But that all changes when the idea of having a threesome comes up. While they were only joking about it to begin with, according to the story, Bella did end up finding someone to join them, a girl called Sophia, who Lucas seemed to really take a liking to, but we'll get into that. Before jumping into bed with Sophia, Lucas and Bella set some ground rules, such as always communicating and putting up boundaries to make sure everyone felt respected and whatnot during the threesome, or series of threesomes they'd be having since they met up with Sophia 3 to 4 times.
Wow. They really must have been having a good time then.
Lucas doesn't explicitly say that they had sex every time they met up, but on one of the occasions they did meet, they had sex multiple times. And in his words, it was mostly him banging Sophia and not really paying much attention to Bella.
So she was the third wheel in her own relationship. That's gotta burn a little.
Yeah, I mean, he does say that Bella and Sophia gave each other oral, which was probably between the rounds he was enjoying with Sophia. Anyway, he goes on to say that he didn't think he handled things in the best way, and that Sophia was something new, something he didn't normally have access to. So he just got a little excited.
Sounds to me like he was trying to replace Bella with the new girl.
Funnily enough, he did say he was too friendly with Sophia, treating her like she was his girlfriend. But it wasn't until the threesome ended that Bella started to express herself, and she'd go on to do it multiple times.
So much for the ground rules and communicating.
Yeah. When people don't have much experience with this sort of thing, all the rules they set beforehand usually go out the window when things start to get hot and heavy. Lucas did put a stop to the whole threesome thing. And over the next year, Bella was hurting and trying to heal from this whole thing. In her eyes, she was cheated, a second option, something that her own boyfriend threw to the side for a new and shiny toy. Whenever Lucas would try to talk to her about it, Bella made it seem like she was okay and just needed time. And even though Lucas would apologize to Bella about the whole thing, he feels like he didn't cross any lines because they talked about how things would be during the threesome. Still, Lucas tried to do everything in his power to make things up to Bella, and while things seemed to be pretty normal recently, Bella said she wanted to take some time apart so she can work on her mental health and heal.
Seems to me like the damage to their relationship is already done. I feel like it'd be very hard to get over this sort of thing. She's probably replaying things over and over again in her head about what happened during their threesome, or threesomes.
Yeah, she couldn't even look at him, and it turns out that she wasn't mentally stable and suffered from depression in the past. And according to Lucas, she still does, which is one of the reasons he sort of regrets letting the threesome go ahead. Anyway, for some reason, Lucas decides to snoop on Bella's MacBook, and when he does, he sees that she's been messaging loads of guys, which wasn't like her at all, so he was really shocked. At the start of April, Bella downloaded a bunch of dating apps, But it wasn't until the middle of the month that she told Lucas that she wanted some space.
Probably because she met someone.
That didn't occur to Lucas at the time though. But for Bella, she was trying to break away from their relationship, but couldn't quite put it into words. On April 21st, Bella cheated on Lucas. And while she was spending time with this new guy, Lucas was at home doing her final biology exam for her. Because after the whole threesome thing, Bella was very upset and started to slack in school. So he decided to help her out. He even took her to Japan.
Taking exams for her sounds very risky, though.
I guess he was just trying to make things up to her. Anyway, a few days later, on April 23rd, Lucas tried talking to Bella again because he wanted to know how she was feeling. But when he tried talking to her this time, Bella made it very clear that she wanted a clean break from him. Lucas didn't want to lose Bella though, so he wrote her a heartfelt letter about how sorry he was for how things turned out. And after he wrote the letter, he went to drop it off at her place, which was the night he decided to go through her MacBook, which was April 26th.
Wait, I thought he looked through her MacBook before.
No, it's just how the story's written. She cheated on him on April 21st, but he only found out she was talking to other guys on the 26th when he looked through her MacBook. But even then, he didn't know for sure that she cheated on him. I think there was just a bit of a time skip in the telling of events. Then, he backtracked a little.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, after finding the messages on her MacBook, Lucas decided to confront Bella after she got off work, and there was a lot of crying during that conversation. But it wasn't until the next day that Bella told Lucas she cheated on him, and she did it because she wanted revenge and needed to satisfy her own emotions. Lucas was upset about it, but he accepted what she did because he'd already brought up the idea of her evening the score as long as she told him beforehand.
This whole thing is a mess and sounds like a relationship that's destined to fail.
Well, Lucas wasn't ready to let everything go just yet, because Bella lied to him when he first showed her the messages he found on her MacBook. She even told him that she used protection with the guy, which turned out to be a lie, which made things even worse because Lucas and Bella had unprotected sex after she'd been with this other guy. Bella even tried to put some of the blame on her friends, saying that they're bad influences because they drove her to the guy's place, like it was some sort of road trip. Lucas didn't take her word for this though, so he messaged her friends to find out what really happened. After which, Bella came clean and said they had nothing to do with it. Lucas was on the brink at this point because he does everything for Bella. He cooks, cleans, does her laundry, takes her places, and manages 4 companies.
4 companies? Isn't he just 21?
Yeah, Lucas comes from a little bit of money. He talks about how he's from an upper middle class Asian family who have a lot of resources, and how Bella's from a lower class Hispanic family, so she's ungrateful because of everything he did for her. Like helping her to get freedom from her family, and getting her a job that pays $40 an hour at one of his companies. All Lucas wanted from her was loyalty and respect, things that she couldn't give him anymore.
The way he talks about their classes and racial backgrounds makes me wonder about his motivation to be with her.
Yeah, it reminds me of that video on Catfished where the guy keeps referring to his partner as my Filipino wife, almost as if he didn't see her as a real person. It's an interesting video, so we'll leave a link in the comments to the full thing. But let's not get too sidetracked. Bella started begging Lucas not to leave, saying that she'll work on herself so she could be a better girlfriend for him. So I guess she changed her mind from wanting to make a clean split. She even gave him permission to sleep with other girls, but Lucas wasn't having any of it and told her to kick rocks. He was like, I wouldn't give up my body and dignity to my emotions. I'm not as stupid as her.
I'm not condoning her cheating or anything, but the way he sees and talks about Bella has me questioning what type of relationship they really had.
Yeah, and having a threesome seems like the worst thing for a couple like this. When Lucas shared this story on Reddit, Bella was back on her medication so she could control her emotions, and she still doesn't want him to leave, saying that she doesn't want anyone else. This whole thing has really had a negative effect on her, and I don't know if Bella's aware of this. But during the past year, Lucas also cheated on her twice, with 2 different girls, but he says it was due to stress and how Bella was treating him.
If things were that bad, why not just leave?
Because he didn't think it would be a good look if after the threesome, she got depressed and he took off. If you ask me though, when couples decide to venture down the path of having threesomes or opening their relationship, I don't think most people are cut out for that sort of lifestyle. While it might sound good on paper to open your relationship, in practice, the experience isn't always what it's cracked up to be. Lucas and Bella are in the early stages of their life though, so they should learn from this experience. I guess it's better to make a mistake like this now, rather than when you're in your mid-40s and have a lot more riding on your relationship. Anyway, what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed today's video on coffee and popcorn, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.